Bitcoin dipping almost 30% in the last 3 days. 3 days, 30%, everyone. In this video, I want to break down the short-term charts, what to anticipate today, the hours ahead, but I really want to talk about the macro charts and why this is a good thing for Bitcoin. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Crypto Capital Venture. Hit that like, hit that subscribe on the way in. I really appreciate it. Let's jump into the Bitcoin video. So here's Bitcoin on the hourly chart. I mean, this is in just a few days, a huge dip for Bitcoin. And if you know me, I talk about dips a lot on this YouTube channel. And this moment right now, in this very second that I do this video, this is why. I just want to be ready for it. I don't want it to freak me out when it happens. If I'm going to buy crypto, which I've been, I want to be ready to do so. That's all. Because there are gains ahead, everybody. There are gains ahead. But let's start here. Let's break down. I just want to show you very quickly. If you missed this, this was yesterday. It's that last 20% dip swing low to our previous swing high, and we have a support area for Bitcoin, 33,000, 100, 33,200, down to $30,800. So that was at $38,534. I did that video. Bitcoin down around 21% in the last 21 hours and potentially continuing, right? We're here. We are at that support area that I talked about. And let me chart that for you. Let's talk about it. It was the swing high. This was a 20% dip from the beginning of January, literally a week ago. A week ago at this time, people were freaking out as well. So it's that swing low to this swing high, previous swing high that Bitcoin had right here, above 40,000. And we are there. We're in a Fibonacci support area. This is the one I talked about in yesterday's video. It is right here, 33,000 or so down to 30,000 or so, right? So we're in the channel, and it's a really good question. Well, what now, right? It's simple. We have to watch the 6-hour chart. We can watch the hourly. We have to see how these candles close now. Just because there's support there doesn't mean that Bitcoin's going to automatically just bounce, right? Initially, actually, if we go chart this on the hourly, it's probably a little bit easier to see. So let's chart the Fibonacci retracement that we're just looking at on the 6-hour. Let's chart it on the hourly, and that's what we're looking at, right? So let me get rid of that. So here's how Bitcoin is interacting with it right now. Initially, there was just immediate support. Look at that hourly wick. This was a few hours ago. And currently, Bitcoin truly testing the bottom range of that Fibonacci. It's the 786 of this Fibonacci support area. So, here's how we got here, right? We broke out of this rising channel. That was our first sign that Bitcoin was getting ready to kind of see something to the downside. We hit our target, right? Remember, this just transpired in the last days. $37,000 target hit. You can see this hourly wick right here. We saw initial support there at a target. That's what we look for, initial support, potential bounce for continuation. But you have to watch that support area, right? Because if that fails, and this is why it's good, in my opinion, if you're buying dips, scaling in your buys, right? Not being like, hey, we hit our bearish target, 37,000. I'm all in now because now we're off to the races back up. That's not how this works. Targets are always there to the downside. And with each target, the dips get greater. And for me, I feel comfortable being like, okay, if the dips are getting greater with each target, then, that's how I'll scale in, right? If I'm going to accumulate Bitcoin right now in this bull market that just started. So, we have this first dip to 37,000, Bitcoin dipping 11%. Okay, maybe, and everybody's different, but maybe I'll buy an 11, 12% dip and feel comfortable about that. But maybe I have some fiat if we hit our next target. Now, where we are now, a Fibonacci retracement, 21% dip, that equals 27% dip. And that's where we are literally right now. And so if you're somebody that's scaling in, you could be like, okay, now it's a little bit heavier of a buy for me. And then what happens if that fails, right? And this is why I talk about dips all the time, everybody. This is why I talk about it, so that we can anticipate exactly what you see playing out on the screen. And most of you are totally down with that. I know that. There are sometimes we get some comments and people are like, it's not going to dip. This is a different time. This is a different season. And I want to discuss this, right? So let's start slowly zooming out on what's actually occurring right now before our eyes. So if you remember, I've been doing a lot of comparison to this move in 2019. Bitcoin into the summer of 2019 was just going crazy, right? And we had this last wick. And at that time, I remember doing videos, there was so much euphoria. People thought we were entering the bull market. And from a cycle perspective, Bitcoin just wasn't there yet, right? And so anticipating a dip at this time was a great idea. But what we've been doing recently is really tracking the similarities of these two moves, because there's so many similarities if you zoom in on these charts. But you can just see the similarities now. This weekly, it did get above that trend line, but right now on the weekly, we are back below the trend line. And so in terms of gains from the very start of this 2019 run, 260% or so. In terms of gains from this recent run that we're in now, we're looking at 300%, right, to the swing high. Very similar in terms of gains. So the fact that Bitcoin's consolidating right now, first off, is normal, but second off, is just so important. It's so healthy. And then the other thing is this: now we're getting some normalcy. Bitcoin looking more like a typical Bitcoin on the weekly RSI. The question that we've had lately is Bitcoin really just going to chill up here in overbought territory? We know we had this consolidation, and let me zoom in here on this momentum oscillator. We had this consolidation right here. It's never happened before. Bitcoin kept going. People are like, Bitcoin is in a whole new world. Institutional buyers, it's just never going to stop. But we continue to ask a question. I mean, is that true? Is Bitcoin really just going to hang out here and consolidate and keep just hitting these crazy overbought areas in the overbought territory? Well, here's our answer on the weekly: Bitcoin coming down. And in my opinion, this is good. This is a good thing for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is doing historically what it does. Here's Bitcoin operating in the last bull market. That's Bitcoin in the last bull market, everybody. Look at those weekly pullbacks, right? And we've discussed this over and over again. So that's the first thing to note. Bitcoin's consolidating right now. It's good. It's healthy. You don't want Bitcoin in a pressure cooker. Always wondering, always asking, always being fearful of that next big dip. So we zoom in on this weekly. Now it's starting to look a little bit more typical. And we go now to a daily chart. And this is where we start kind of analyzing, well, you know, we have this support area, this Fibonacci support, but what if it fails? Which literally, as I do this video, which is why I'm doing a live stream, I didn't want to record a video because by the time I upload it, it's just outdated. And I can't take that. So that's why I'm doing a live stream right now to track this live. If you're here right now, I appreciate you. Smash that like button and let's try to get some momentum with this video. But so this is the question that I think a lot of people have. And it's always a question on my mind. You know, what happens when we get here and we're here at support? What happens if it fails? And right now in the hourly, it's failing. That doesn't mean much in this very minute. You really have to, you know, go to a 6-hour chart. And at the end of the day, look to see how the 6-hour closes. How does the next candle close? Because you can get a lot of, you know, just sideways action with wicks down into the lower areas, but coming back up into the support. So you want to really track this over the next day. But let's discuss, what if it just truly fails? Like, what if this dip continues, right? And so we go over here to the daily chart. And we talk about what we've talked about so often, the ocean, the 50-day moving average ocean. And it's just such a good chart to zoom out, to revisit, to get some perspective on the environment that Bitcoin is in and where we could be headed. Bitcoin historically always somehow pulls back to the ocean, right? And you know, it's just such a good illustration for me to just call it an ocean. So if you don't like that illustration, I'm sorry, but I like it. But here's Bitcoin in the last bull market, right? Same thing, getting overextended, but getting pulled back into that 50-day moving average over and over again. And now here we are, right? And here it was in 2019. Remember, we just talked about that 2019 chart, the similarities there, right? Here's 2019. And here's what it looks like on the 50-day moving average chart. Bitcoin getting pulled right into it. Now, what we've talked about before, if Bitcoin gets pulled into the 50-day moving average, and that doesn't mean a crash right now to 24,000, but a slow pull into it, right? Maybe over the next coming days, Bitcoin continues to the downside. We get pulled into it. 50-day moving average gets pulled up. What we talked about was when that happened back here in 2019, Bitcoin did pull into it, and it fell into just kind of this descending triangle, continued to the downside. What we'd be looking for now, if Bitcoin gets pulled into the 50-day moving average, is something similar, which is structure. But since we're in a bull market now, what we would look for is a bullish setup for Bitcoin. So in terms of the 50-day moving average getting pulled into it, however this might look like, and this is going to transpire in the hours and the days ahead. We don't know what structure will look like, right? But whatever structure looks like here, maybe it's just continuation to the 50-day moving average. We're in the 20,000s and we get a bounce, and it's kind of like this maybe like a lower high bounce, and we come back down. People are still like, oh man, was at the top, and people are freaking out, speculating, and then we fall into a symmetrical triangle, and then it's February, and finally Bitcoin starts like seeing bullishness again, right? That's like a speculative scenario. But this is what we're looking for, some kind of structure, and I can't tell you what it's going to look like. I don't know what the pattern will look like, but in terms of answering the question, well, Bitcoin is literally failing at this Fibonacci support area. What next? In terms of answering that, you look at the macro charts, and that is the 50-day moving average, currently down there in the mid 20,000s. And that's just the way it is, everybody. There's such volatility, but for the lifetime of Bitcoin, zooming out on these charts, it always gets pulled back to these areas. And so nothing seems to be different this time around. This is extremely commonplace for Bitcoin, even in bull markets. And it's crazy that we're getting these, like I did a video 21 hours ago, and it was 38,000. Now we're at 30,000. We're almost at a $10,000 swing. We're in that type of world for Bitcoin. Now going back here, this was a video from January 3rd. I just want to show a quick clip. But right now, I really want to see how this monthly candle for Bitcoin closes on the monthly chart. What volatility is in store for us over the next 4 weeks or so? What volatility is in store for us? Well, let me tell you, Dan, this is the volatility for the month of January. I knew January is going to be a defining time in terms of Bitcoin. And so I want to look at the monthly chart, and I want to just show you a couple things. This, to me, is another illustration of why this is not only normal, but bullish for Bitcoin. Here's a monthly candle for Bitcoin. Not looking very good, right? It's not looking good right now. But I want to look at the possibilities. And one thing I want to note is this. If we look at Bitcoin on this monthly chart, and we actually go back to the last bull market, right? So I'm going to compare it to here on the monthly chart. So what's transpiring here and here. First off, to note, on the monthly, Bitcoin was more overbought back here in I guess you can call it June and July of 2017. And a lot was in store for Bitcoin to the upside, right? Bitcoin is not even that overbought here on the monthly. That's the first thing I want to note. But I want to dig into what's transpiring here on the monthly chart, and I want to compare what's happening here and what happened here in June and July. And to do that, I'm going to go and I'm going to zoom in, and here's Bitcoin on the weekly chart back in June and July 2017. Look at that. Around a 40% dip for Bitcoin in the middle of a bear market, or bull market, I'm sorry. This is what it looks like. And now here we are. That's a 39% speculative dip. Bitcoin does exactly the same thing. But right now, we're sitting at, on this weekly candle, right? This is the weekly candle, a 20% dip. If you want to take it from that swing high, we're at a 27% dip. So Bitcoin in the middle of the last bull market, 39% dip. And notice, extremely important, that green line going down the screen, the 20-week moving average, Bitcoin just hitting that over and over again on the way up. But Bitcoin was dipping. It was $1,800. This 40% move to the downside in the middle of a bull market, people freaking out at a 40% move basically to $1,800, having no idea that $20,000 swing high just around the corner. And here we are right now with a 27% dip. And the reason I'm showing you this, I know there's probably a lot of people that have recently got into Bitcoin. If you've been watching my videos for a while or in Bitcoin and crypto for a while, you know that this really is nothing. It's a 27% dip. It's very common for Bitcoin. You know that. But if you're new here, maybe you don't. And I really wanted to break it down for you. This is very normal for Bitcoin. And so this is the really true macro area that you just really always want to have in the back of your mind. I talk about all the time, the 20-week moving average. That is it in 2017, Bitcoin revisiting. And currently right now, Bitcoin, the 20-week moving average is all the way down here at $18,000. Now that's not to say Bitcoin's going down there right now. Because if you look at this chart, this took, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 6 weeks to consolidate into the 20-week moving average and get that dip. So that's the question. What does the next month look like for Bitcoin when looking at this weekly chart? What kind of weekly candles are we about to put in? Sideways, boring? Are we going to get a correction in sideways, boring? Is Bitcoin, we're going to get a bounce and sideways? Are we going to continue down and then sideways, pulling this 20-week moving average up, getting a very similar chart, a 40% dip to the downside, just to give you an idea, 40% dip from here, whether it takes a day or 2 more weeks, that leaves us at $25,000 Bitcoin. Those are the scenarios, and it would look exactly like this chart back in 2017 in the middle of a bull market. And at the end of the day, this isn't something any YouTuber, any person on Twitter, anybody on CNBC can tell you. Nobody knows what's going to happen, but these are just the speculative scenarios. This is historical data. We zoom out on the charts. We evaluate the macro. We evaluate how has Bitcoin operated in bull markets, and 40% dips are normal. Now, the other thing I have to say this. Number one, this isn't financial advice. This isn't financial advice at all. In the back of my mind, I'm always, and I don't believe this is going to happen, but I'm always just like, you know what, dude, what if crypto fails? What if some crazy thing happens in the world and crypto just tanks, right? And we're back at ridiculously low prices. Nothing is out of the question, but that's why you have to evaluate your risk tolerance. You have to make your decisions on what you're willing to risk. But the potential for upside, we've been tracking Bitcoin for so long, right? You go to this macro zoomed out chart that I charted in December 2018, all the way back here at the bottom of the bear market, basically. And Bitcoin's just on track. Look at this. I charted this in December 2018. Bitcoin's on track. Bitcoin's looking bullish, but always anticipate downside and be ready for downside. It's always just in play. But bringing all the macro charts, bringing it all back to where we are right now in this very hour, this is what the hourly chart looks like. This is how we got here. And right now, Bitcoin truly is testing this swing low, 20% dip January 4th to current swing high. We're testing the Fibonacci support area. And we're going to just continue to watch these hourly candles. We can definitely want to watch it on the 6 hour. Let's see how the 6 hour candle closes. Would be great if Bitcoin can at least close, in this Fibonacci retracement, this Fibonacci support area. But time will tell. But always remember what the macro charts look like, everybody. And here's that blue ocean, the 50-day moving average. Always give Bitcoin room to consolidate into that area, and that's what Bitcoin's doing. Look at the daily chart for Bitcoin. The daily chart, the daily RSI, all the way back down. It's good to see. It's definitely good to see. But is it coming down into oversold? Potentially. Be ready for that. Be ready for that continued volatility. And then here we are, real quick. I just really do want to look at another glance at the weekly RSI. You can see Bitcoin doing pretty much now what we've anticipated. A little bit of consolidation and pullback on this overbought, coming out of overbought, and starting to look very similar to Bitcoin in the last bull market. So we're on track. Everything is just cruising along in terms of Bitcoin world. Don't forget what just transpired. And you can open up a weekly and you can just look at what we've just enjoyed, right? So keep that in mind, have that perspective, and we'll keep tracking this. But yeah, I mean, this is what I'll be watching, this hourly chart. Let's see how Bitcoin interacts with this. And then to the downside, let's just see what happens. Will be really interesting. And just to note, I don't always look at these areas, but this previous swing low where we got that 20% dip, if Bitcoin does continue this dip, it would be an interesting area to watch in that $27,000 range, how Bitcoin interacts with that as well. But we track, we watch. Everybody, we're here, we're in this, we're just hanging out in it together. If you're here right now, hit that like button, smash that like button. I appreciate all of you. If you're a new subscriber, thanks for cruising by. Thanks for watching Technical Analysis. And if you're not familiar, I do have this new app in App Store, Block Gains. It's free. I'm not trying to sell you anything, everybody. I created this app so I could plan my exits, right? So I can track my portfolio. This allows you to speculatively place your sells, what they look like, what your gains will look like when Bitcoin gets to these certain areas or other cryptos. You can do your altcoins, and you can envision and visualize what your exits look like. And it completely replaces the spreadsheets. I will note, I bootstrap this, right? I have a team of developers. They killed it. They launched it. It's working, right? But there's stuff that we're working on right now. So give me a little bit of time. In the next few weeks, we're going to be releasing alerts. We're going to be releasing pretty much all coins. So I know there's some altcoins not available. We're going to be releasing fiat pairs. So you have other fiat besides just USD. Redesign of the app, everything. There's so much coming, everybody. And this is free. So I truly appreciate your support. I really appreciate your feedback. We get emails, I get comments, I forward that to our developers. I'm implementing so many of your recommendations, but this thing is going to be top notch. I think already it is. You can get in there, you can just start visualizing, what speculative sells will look like and what your portfolio could look like at certain prices. So I wanted just to kind of, get that out there real quick. But I appreciate you all. Let's track this chart. Let's track support. Let's see what happens with Bitcoin today. If something crazy happens, I'm sure I'll do another video a little bit later. I appreciate all of you cruising by. Hit that subscribe, hit that like. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.